The young warriors sat in perfect rows, their purple scales gleaming under the bright lights of the War Academy. They looked at Zefak with wide eyes, taking in every detail of his scarred body. His left arm was gone, cut off at the shoulder. 3 deep scars ran across his face, and his once proud crest was broken in half. But his eyes still burned with the fire of a true warrior. Zefak stood before them, his remaining hand resting on the podium. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air systems. These young ones had never seen real war. They had only heard stories of the great Korthani Empire and its endless victories across the galaxy. "You think you know what war is?" Zefak said, his voice rough from years of battle. "You have trained with weapons. You have studied tactics. You believe the Empire is strong and our enemies are weak." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I once thought the same thing. That was before I met the humans." A ripple of whispers went through the room. The humans were just stories to these young warriors. Tales of a small blue planet far away, inhabited by soft-skinned creatures that lived for only a few decades. Zefak raised his hand for silence. 15 years ago, I was like you. I was young and eager for glory. When the High Command decided to add Earth to our empire, I volunteered immediately. The briefings made it sound so easy. He activated the holographic display behind him. Images of humans appeared in the air, taken from long-range scans years before the war. The young warriors leaned forward, studying the strange bipedal creatures, with their pale skin and tiny bodies. "Look at them," Zefak said. "No natural armor, no claws or fangs. No thick hide to protect them from weapons fire. Their bones break easily. Their blood is thin and red. They live for maybe 80 of their short years, while we live for 300. He pointed at the images with his remaining hand. "Our scientists said they were barely past the Stone Age when we first found them, primitive, weak, perfect slaves." The display changed to show human cities and technology. The structures looked crude compared to Korthani architecture. Their weapons seemed simple and ineffective. "The High Command sent only 3 fleets for the conquest," Zefak continued. 3 fleets to conquer an entire world. Do you know why? He looked around the room. Because they thought it would be over in a few days. A routine pacification mission? Nothing more. One of the young warriors raised a tentacle. "Master Zefak, if they were so weak, why did the mission fail?" Zefak's eyes grew dark. "That is what I am here to tell you. The first mistake we made was believing our own intelligence reports. The second mistake was thinking that physical strength is the only kind of strength that matters." The hologram changed again, showing the human outer system. Jupiter floated in space with its many moons circling around it. Zefak pointed to one small moon. "Europa, that is where I first encountered humans in battle. There was a small research station there, maybe 50 humans total. Scientists and support staff, no military presence that we could detect." He paused. "Our advanced scout force consisted of 3 heavy cruisers and 12 fighter squadrons. Against 50 soft-skinned researchers, the young warriors looked confused. The numbers made no sense. How could 50 humans threaten such a force? "I was the tactical officer on the lead cruiser," Zefak said. "Captain Morvac ordered us to simply destroy the station from orbit. Clean and simple. But Command wanted prisoners for study. They wanted to understand human biology before the main invasion." His voice grew bitter. "So we moved in close to use capture nets instead of plasma cannons." The hologram showed the 3 Korthani cruisers approaching the small human station. On Europa's surface, the station looked tiny and helpless compared to the massive alien warships. "The humans sent us a message," Zefak continued. "I will never forget it. A human male appeared on our screens. He had brown hair and blue eyes. His name was Jake Morrison, and he was the station commander. He looked directly at us and said, 'You picked the wrong species to mess with.'" Several young warriors made clicking sounds of amusement. The idea of such a small creature threatening Korthani warriors seemed ridiculous. Zefak's expression grew grim. "We laughed too. Captain Morvac ordered the capture operation to begin. Our first ship, the Bloodfang, moved into position above the station. That was when we learned our first lesson about humans. The display showed the Corthony cruiser hovering over the research station. Suddenly, the entire surface of Europa erupted in a massive explosion. The humans had turned their entire research station into a bomb, Zefek said quietly. They had spent weeks moving all their scientific equipment, all their nuclear reactors, all their fuel supplies into one concentrated area. When our ship came close enough, they detonated everything at once. The young warriors sat in stunned silence. The explosion on the display was enormous, easily large enough to destroy a heavy cruiser. The Bloodfang was vaporized instantly, Zephyr continued. 2,000 of our finest warriors died in that moment. But that was just the beginning. The hologram showed debris from the explosion spreading through space. Among the wreckage, small, human shuttles emerged from hidden locations on Europa's surface. The research station was just a decoy, Zefak explained. The real human base was underground. As soon as the Bloodfang was destroyed, 20 human shuttles launched from concealed positions. These were not military ships. They were simple transport craft used for moving supplies and personnel. One of the young warriors spoke up. Surely our remaining cruisers destroyed them easily? Zefak shook his head. The humans had modified their shuttles. They removed all safety systems, all life support, everything that was not essential. Then they packed each shuttle with explosives and aimed them directly at our ships. The display showed the human shuttles accelerating toward the two remaining Corthony cruisers. The alien ships fired their weapons, destroying several shuttles, but others kept coming. Captain Morvak ordered evasive maneuvers, Zefek said. But the humans had calculated our likely responses. They knew how our ships would move, how our captains would think. Some shuttles missed, but others found their targets. The hologram showed two shuttles striking the cruiser Darkstorm's engine section. The explosions were smaller than what had destroyed the Bloodfang, but they were precisely placed to cause maximum damage. The Darkstorm lost main power and began drifting, Zephyr continued. Our fighters moved in to protect it while damaged. Control teams worked to restore systems. That was when the humans showed us their true nature. More human shuttles appeared on the display, emerging from hiding spots throughout the European system. These craft were even smaller than the first wave, barely large enough for 1 or 2 occupants. These final shuttles contained human volunteers, Zefek said, his voice heavy with something that might have been respect. Men and women who knew they would die but flew their craft anyway. They targeted the Darkstorm's weak points, areas our own damage control teams were trying to repair. The young warriors watched in horrified fascination as the tiny human craft slammed into the massive Corthony cruiser. Each impact was small, but they came from multiple directions, faster than the ship's defensive systems could track. In 30 minutes we lost 2 of our 3 cruisers, Zefek said. Not to a superior military force, but to 50 human researchers who refused to surrender. The survivors sent a final message before our last ship retreated. The hologram changed to show a human female with dark hair and fierce eyes. This was Amy Rodriguez, one of the research team leaders. She looked at us through the communication channel, Zefak remembered. Her station was destroyed, her friends were dead, and she knew we would return with more ships. But she smiled at us, actually smiled. Then she said, "Tell your commanders that was just a warm-up. If you want Earth, you'll have to come and take it." The display went dark. Zefak stood in silence for a long moment, remembering that day and all the days that followed. Command refused to believe the reports at first, he finally said. They claimed the ships must have suffered mechanical failures. Humans could not possibly have destroyed 2 heavy cruisers. It was impossible. He looked around the room at the young, eager faces. But I was there. I saw what 50 humans could do when they decided to fight. One of the warriors raised a tentacle nervously. "Master Zefek, what happened next?" Zefek's scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile. "Next, young one, the High Command decided that humans were more dangerous than first. Thought. They sent the main invasion fleet to Earth. 500 ships, 100,000 warriors. The pride of the Korthani Empire. He paused. And that is when we learned that 50 humans with improvised weapons were nothing compared to what awaited us at their homeworld. The room fell silent again. Outside, the twin suns of the Korthani homeworld were setting, casting long shadows. Through the academy windows, somewhere in the darkness between stars, Earth continued its orbit around a distant yellow sun. And the humans continued to grow stronger. Zefek looked at each young warrior in turn. Tomorrow, I will tell you about our first real battle with organized human forces. I will tell you about the day we learned that everything we thought we knew about warfare was wrong. His voice dropped to a whisper. I will tell you about the day we met the human military. The next morning, Zefek returned to the academy hall. The young warriors were already seated, their eyes bright with curiosity. Word had spread about yesterday's lesson, and more students had come to hear the old veterans' stories. They whispered among themselves until Zefek entered the room. Yesterday I told you about Europa, Zefek began without greeting. 50 humans destroyed 2 of our cruisers. Command called it a fluke. Bad luck. They said the main fleet would show these humans what real power looked like. He activated the holographic display. 6 months later, the invasion fleet arrived at Earth's outer system. The display showed the massive Korthani armada emerging. From hyperspace, 500 warships of various sizes stretched across the darkness. Dreadnoughts as large as cities floated alongside sleek destroyers and swift fighters. It was the largest fleet the Empire had ever assembled. I was assigned to the flagship, the Eternal Conquest, Zefek continued. Fleet Admiral Korthax commanded. From the bridge. He was convinced this would be our greatest victory. 1 day to crush human resistance, 1 week to occupy their world, 1 month to process the survivors into work camps. A young warrior raised her tentacle. Surely such a fleet could not fail against primitive humans? Zefek's damaged crest twitched. That is what we thought. The first sign that something was wrong came when we reached the asteroid belt between their 4th and 5th planets. Our scouts reported human mining operations throughout the region. Millions of humans working on hundreds of asteroids, extracting metals and rare elements. The hologram changed to show the asteroid belt. Tiny human settlements dotted the rocky surfaces, connected by transport ships and communication arrays. Admiral Korthax was pleased, Zefek said. So many humans in one place, far from their homeworld's defenses. He ordered the first wave to capture the mining colonies intact. The humans would make excellent workers once properly trained. His voice grew dark. We had no idea what we were flying into. The display showed Korthani assault ships approaching the largest asteroid cluster. Each rock was covered with human structures, mining equipment, and residential domes. The attack began at dawn on their calendar, Zefek remembered. 100 assault ships, each carrying 500 warriors. We expected light resistance from civilian security forces. Instead, we found something much worse. The hologram showed the first Korthani ships landing on asteroid surfaces. Warriors in full combat armor emerged from their transports, weapons ready. The human settlements appeared abandoned. The humans were gone, Zefek continued. Every mining station, every habitat dome, every worksite was empty. Our warriors spread out to search for survivors or hidden weapons. That was when we heard the voice. A new figure appeared in the hologram. A human female with short gray hair and stern eyes, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. This was General Lisa Carter, though the aliens did not know her name then. She spoke to us over the asteroid communication systems, Zefek said. Her words were broadcast to every Korthani warrior in the belt. She said, "Welcome to our trap." You wanted our resources? You can have them. Then she started counting down. From 10, the young warriors leaned forward, sensing danger in Zefek's tone. At first, we thought it was meaningless human noise, Zefek continued. But when she reached 0, we learned what humans meant by scorched earth tactics. The hologram erupted in light. Every asteroid in the mining region exploded simultaneously. The humans had turned their entire industrial operation into one massive bomb. They destroyed everything, Zefek said quietly. Billions of credits worth of mining equipment, refined metals, processed materials, habitats that had taken decades to build. All of it gone in seconds, along with 30,000 of our warriors. The room was silent except for the soft breathing of the young aliens. The scale of destruction was hard to comprehend, but that was just the beginning, Zefik continued. As our survivors tried to retreat, human ships appeared from behind the remaining asteroids. Not military vessels, but converted civilian craft, cargo haulers, passenger transports, even small personal ships. The display showed dozens of human vessels emerging from hiding. They looked crude compared to Corthony warships, but they moved with purpose and coordination. Their leader was a human named Tony Blake, Zefek said, an engineer who had spent his life building mining equipment. When the war started, he volunteered to modify civilian ships for combat. He removed their cargo holds and passenger compartments, then filled the empty space with explosives. The hologram showed the human ships accelerating toward the scattered Corthony forces. Unlike the desperate suicide runs at Europa, these attacks were carefully planned and executed. Blake's ships moved in perfect formation, Zefuk remembered. They used the asteroid debris as cover, striking our vessels when we were most vulnerable. Each converted ship was essentially a guided missile with a human pilot. One of the young warriors spoke up nervously. "Did they all die in the attacks?" Zefek shook his head. That was what made it truly terrifying. Some ships were equipped with escape pods. The human pilots would guide their explosive vessels to the target, then eject at the last moment. They survived to attack again and again. He paused. Others chose to stay with their ships to ensure accuracy. They died with smiles on their faces. The display changed to show the aftermath of the asteroid belt battle. Wreckage from both sides drifted through space, but the humans had achieved their goal. The Corthony invasion fleet was scattered and damaged. Admiral Korthax was furious, Zefek continued. He ordered the fleet to regroup and continue toward Earth, but as we moved deeper into the human system, we encountered more surprises. New images appeared in the hologram. A space station near the human homeworld, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. This was one of their orbital defense platforms, Zefek explained. Our intelligence said it was lightly armed, designed mainly for asteroid detection and space traffic control. When we moved to destroy it, we learned how wrong our information was. The station in the display suddenly expanded, revealing hidden weapon ports and shield generators. What had appeared to be a simple civilian facility was actually a military fortress. The humans had been preparing for invasion for years, Zefik said. Every civilian structure had hidden weapons. Every space station was a disguised fortress. Every transport ship could become a weapon in minutes. The hologram showed more human deceptions. Mining ships that were actually assault vessels. Research stations that launched swarms of attack drones. Even hospital ships that fired medical waste at Corthony vessels, contaminating their hulls with Earth bacteria. Dr. Kate Morgan led their biological warfare division, Zefak continued. She was a small human female, barely reaching my shoulder. She studied samples of our blood and tissue recovered from Europa. Within weeks, she had created diseases that only affected Corthony physiology. A chill ran through the room. Biological warfare was considered dishonorable by most civilized species. The humans did not care about honor, Zefek said bluntly. They cared about survival. Dr. Morgan's weapons were loaded into their attack ships. Every human vessel that struck our forces left behind clouds of contaminated particles. The display showed Corthony warriors collapsing from mysterious illnesses. Their purple skin turned gray and mottled. Their breathing became labored. It was not immediately fatal, Zefak explained. The humans designed it to weaken us slowly, making our warriors less effective in combat. They wanted us to suffer before we died. One of the young warriors made a sound of disgust. How could they fight without honor? Zefek turned to face the student directly. Because they were not fighting for honor or glory or territory, they were fighting for the survival of their entire species. When extinction is the alternative, honor becomes a luxury you cannot afford. The hologram changed again, showing the human homeworld growing larger as the Korthony fleet approached. Earth looked beautiful from space, with its blue oceans and white clouds. It seemed peaceful and vulnerable. Admiral Korthax thought we still had the advantage, Zefek said. Yes, the humans had fought better than expected. Yes, we had taken heavy losses. But we still had 300 ships remaining. Surely that was enough to conquer one small planet. The display showed the Korthony fleet in orbit around Earth's moon. The lunar surface was dotted with human bases and mining operations. The Admiral ordered a direct assault on their lunar installations, Zefek continued. He wanted to establish a staging area for the invasion of Earth itself. The human moon bases looked lightly defended, easy targets. Images of human lunar facilities appeared in the hologram. They seemed small and fragile, like soap bubbles against the blackness of space. I was part of the first wave, Zefek said, touching his scarred face with his remaining hand. 50,000 warriors in assault pods launched directly at the human moon bases. We expected to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. The young warriors waited in tense silence. As our pods approached the lunar surface, a human voice came over. The communication channels, Zefek continued. It was a male named Rick Stone, a commander of their marine forces. He said only 4 words that I will never forget. Zefek paused, his eyes distant with memory. He said, "Welcome to hell, aliens." The academy hall was packed when Zefek arrived for the 3rd day. Word had spread throughout the military complex about the scarred veterans' lessons. Young warriors from other divisions had come to hear about the humans. Even some officers sat in the back rows, their faces serious and attentive. Zefek stood before the crowd, his missing arm a constant reminder of the battles he described. He looked out at the sea of purple faces, all waiting to hear what happened next. "You have heard how we underestimated the humans," he began. "You have heard how they drove our invasion fleet from their world. Today I will tell you about the pursuit, about what happened when the humans decided to hunt us." The holographic display activated, showing the damaged Korthony fleet limping away from Earth. Many ships trailed atmosphere from hull breaches. Others moved slowly, their engines damaged by human weapons. "We thought we were safe once we left their system," Zefek continued. Admiral Korthax ordered maximum speed to the nearest Imperial base. "We believed the humans would be content to see us gone. We were wrong." The display changed to show sleek human vessels following the Korthony fleet. They moved with predatory grace, staying just out of weapons range but close enough to monitor every movement. "They shadowed us for 3 days, Zefek said. Never attacking, never communicating. Just watching, waiting. Some of our officers thought they were simply making sure we left their territory. I knew better." A young warrior near the front raised his tentacle. "Why did they not attack immediately?" Zefek's scarred face twisted into something resembling a smile. "Because they were learning. Studying our formation patterns, our ship capabilities, our tactical responses. The humans were patient hunters." The hologram showed the human ships maintaining perfect distance from the Korthony fleet. Like wolves following a wounded animal, they stayed close but avoided direct confrontation. On the 4th day, we reached the edge of what humans called their outer defense perimeter, Zefek continued. Admiral Korthax thought we were finally safe. He ordered the fleet to slow down and begin repairs. That was when the humans showed us their true nature. The display erupted in weapons fire. The human ships suddenly accelerated, closing the distance in seconds. But instead of attacking the main fleet, they targeted something else entirely. They went after our supply ships first, Zefek explained. The vessels carrying food, fuel, and medical supplies. Within minutes, every support ship in our fleet was either destroyed or disabled. The young warriors watched in horror as human vessels systematically eliminated the Korthony supply lines. The attacks were precise and devastating. The human commander sent us a message then, Zefek said. Her name was Captain Carol Hughes, the same woman who had threatened our homeworlds. She appeared on our screens with that strange human expression they call a smile. The hologram showed a human female with cold, calculating eyes. She looked directly at the camera as if she could see through the display into the souls of her enemies. She told us that we were now cut off from supplies, Zefek remembered. No food, no fuel, no medical aid. She said we could surrender and be treated according to human rules of war, or we could continue running until we starved. An older officer in the back row spoke up. Surely Admiral Korthax did not surrender to a human? Zefek's crest twitched with bitter amusement. Admiral Korthax was a proud warrior of the old school. He believed death was preferable to surrender. He ordered all ships to continue toward Imperial space, hoping to reach a base before our supplies ran out. The display showed the Korthani. Fleet struggling onward, their ships moving more slowly now. Several vessels had fallen behind, their engines failing. The humans continued to follow us, Zefek said. But now they began a new type of warfare. They would attack single ships that fell behind, disable them, and then broadcast the crew's surrender to the rest of the fleet. The hologram showed human ships surrounding a disabled Korthani cruiser. Instead of destroying it, they used cutting tools to breach the hull and capture the crew alive. We heard the voices of our own warriors over the communication channels, Zefek continued. They were alive, unharmed, and being treated well by their human captors. The humans were showing us that surrender was not only possible, but preferable to slow death in space. The psychological impact was devastating. Korthani warriors were trained to fight to the death, but the promise of honorable treatment began to weaken their resolve. Admiral Korthax tried to maintain discipline, Zefek said. He ordered radio silence and threatened to execute anyone who attempted to surrender. But the humans were patient. They knew our supplies were running low. The display showed the human fleet maintaining its pursuit. Days passed, then weeks. The Korthani ships grew more desperate as their resources dwindled. It was during the third week that we encountered the human named Joe Parker, Zefek said. He was a pilot flying a small fighter craft that seemed harmless compared to our massive warships. The hologram showed a tiny human vessel approaching the Korthani flagship. It was barely large enough for one occupant, dwarfed by the massive alien dreadnought. Parker requested permission to come aboard, Zefek continued. He said he had a message from the human government. Admiral Korthax ordered him destroyed, but our weapons malfunctioned at the crucial moment. Several young warriors made sounds of confusion. How could weapons malfunction so conveniently? Later we learned that the humans had been studying our ships for months, Zefek explained. They had developed ways to interfere with our targeting systems, our engines, even our life support. Parker's approach was not luck, it was planned. The display showed the human pilot being brought aboard the Korthani flagship under guard. He was a small man with graying hair and calm eyes, showing no fear despite being surrounded by hostile aliens. Parker spoke to Admiral Korthax directly, Zefek remembered. He explained that the human government was prepared to offer terms for our surrender. Good treatment for prisoners, eventual repatriation to Korthani space, and most importantly, medical care for our sick and wounded. The hologram showed the condition of the Korthani fleet after weeks of pursuit. Many ships were dark, their crews suffering from malnutrition and disease. Others drifted powerless, their engines finally failing. The Admiral asked Parker why humans would show mercy to enemies who had tried to destroy their world. Zefek said, Parker's answer haunts me still. The room fell silent, waiting for the revelation. He said that humans understood the difference between warriors following orders and the leaders who gave those orders, Zefek continued. He said most of our fleet were young soldiers like me who had been told that humans were monsters. He said humans preferred to educate their enemies rather than simply destroy them. The psychological warfare was masterful. By showing compassion to individual Korthani while maintaining pressure on the fleet, the humans were breaking down military discipline. Parker left detailed surrender procedures with us, Zefek said. Any ship that wanted to give up could broadcast a specific signal, and human vessels would respond with medical aid and supplies. The offer was open to individual crews, not just the entire fleet. The display showed the terrible choice facing the Korthani warriors. Continue following Admiral Korthax toward likely death, or surrender to the humans and face an uncertain but survivable future. The first ship to surrender was the cruiser Night Wind, Zefak remembered. Her captain was a young female named Vorthek. Her crew was dying from a plague that had spread through the ship's air systems. The hologram showed a Korthani cruiser broadcasting the surrender signal. Within hours, human medical ships were alongside, providing aid to the sick crew. We watched through our sensors as human doctors worked to save Korthani lives, Zefek said. They treated our people with the same care they would show their own wounded. It was disturbing. The young warriors looked confused. How could kindness be disturbing? Because it meant the humans were not the monsters we had been taught to fear, Zefek explained. If they could show such compassion to enemies, what did that make us for trying to destroy their world? More ships began to surrender as the pursuit continued. The human fleet grew larger as Korthani vessels joined their captors, their crews working alongside human technicians to repair damaged systems. Admiral Korthax watched his fleet dissolve around him, Zefek said. Ship after ship chose surrender over death. By the end of the 5th week, only 12 vessels remained under his command. The display showed the tiny remnant of the once mighty invasion fleet. These were the most loyal or most stubborn of the Korthani warriors, following their admiral into the darkness between stars. That was when we encountered the human named Nancy Bell, Zefek continued. She was not a military officer, but a civilian leader who had volunteered to help with prisoner processing. The hologram showed an elderly human female with kind eyes and gentle manner. She looked like someone's grandmother, hardly the image of a dangerous enemy. Belle came aboard our ship with a small escort, Zefak said. She carried food, medicine, and entertainment materials. She said she understood that we were far from home and frightened. The psychological impact was devastating. The Academy Hall could barely contain the crowd on the 4th day. Word of Zefek's stories had reached the highest levels of Korthani command. Senior officers sat alongside young cadets, all waiting to hear about the return home and its aftermath. Zefek entered the hall slowly, his age and injuries more apparent than before. The weight of memory seemed to press down on his shoulders as he approached the podium. He looked out at the faces before him, knowing that what he was about to share would change how they saw their own empire forever. When we returned to Korthani space, he began without preamble, we thought our ordeal was over. We had survived the war, endured captivity, and were finally coming home. We expected to be welcomed as heroes who had faced impossible odds. The holographic display showed Korthani ships approaching their homeworlds. The vessels looked different now, modified by human technology and bearing the scars of their long journey. Instead, we found the Empire in chaos, Zefak continued. News of our defeat had reached home before us. The human recording devices had been broadcasting our surrender, our treatment as prisoners, and our complete military failure to every corner of Korthani space. The display showed riots in Korthani cities. Angry crowds demanded answers from their leaders. Some called for renewed war against the humans, while others insisted on complete isolation from the dangerous species. High Command tried to suppress the recordings, Zefak said. They claimed it was human propaganda, designed to weaken our morale. But too many people had seen the truth. Our mighty invasion fleet reduced to begging for mercy from creatures we had dismissed as primitives. A senior officer in the back raised his tentacle. Surely the leadership understood that you faced unexpected resistance? Zefek's scarred face twisted with bitter amusement. General Thurvok, who had planned the invasion, was executed for incompetence 3 days after our return. Admiral Korthax took his own life rather than face court-martial. The entire military hierarchy was restructured to remove anyone associated with the human disaster. The room fell silent. The idea that such high-ranking officers could fall so completely was shocking to the younger warriors. But the political chaos was nothing compared to what the humans did next, Zephyr continued. 2 weeks after our return, every Korthani world received the same message simultaneously. The holographic display changed to show a familiar human face. It was Rachel Ward, the intelligence officer who had coordinated much of the human deception campaign. She appeared on every communication channel, every news broadcast, every military frequency, Zifik remembered. Her message was simple and terrifying. She said the humans had been watching us for much longer than we realized. The display showed images that made the Korthani audience gasp in shock. Human observation posts hidden throughout Korthani space, spy satellites monitoring their ship movements, even infiltration agents walking among their populations. The humans revealed that they had known about our expansion plans for decades, Zephyr said. They had been preparing for our invasion since before most of you were born. Every aspect of our military, our technology, our culture had been studied and catalogued. Ward's image returned to the display, her calm voice explaining the scope of human intelligence operations. She told us that the invasion of Earth had been allowed to proceed, Zephyr continued. The humans could have destroyed our fleet before it reached their system, but they chose not to. They wanted to study our full military capabilities under combat conditions. The implications were staggering. The entire war had been a test, with the Korthani serving as unwilling subjects in a human experiment. Dr. Alex Turner, their chief scientist, appeared next, Zefik said. He explained how they had used the war to test new weapons, new tactics, new psychological warfare techniques. Every battle had been recorded and analyzed for future reference. The display showed Turner, a thin human male with intense eyes, standing before charts and graphs that detailed every aspect of Korthani military performance. Turner revealed that humans had been fighting mock battles against Korthani tactics for years, Zifak continued. They had built replica ships, trained soldiers to fight like our warriors, even developed biological weapons specifically designed for our physiology. The audience stirred uneasily. The idea that humans had been preparing so thoroughly was deeply disturbing. But the most shocking revelation came from Ben Clark, their construction coordinator, Zifake said. He showed us what they had been building while we were planning our invasion. The hologram displayed images that defied belief. Massive human shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, producing vessels that combine the best of human and alien technology. Entire fleets of warships more advanced than anything in Korthani space. They had reverse-engineered not just our technology, but the technology of 6 other species, Zefik explained. Every race that had ever threatened human space had contributed unwittingly to their military advancement. The display showed human ships incorporating Zelani shield generators, Vorthan weapon systems, and Korthani faster-than-light drives. Each vessel was a testament to human adaptability and ingenuity. Clark explained that Earth was not just one world, but the center of a growing human empire, Zefak continued. They had established colonies on hundreds of worlds, built massive industrial complexes, and created the largest military force in known space. The young warriors looked at each other in disbelief. How could a species they had dismissed as primitive accomplish so much? The humans showed us their true strength, Zefik said. Not just their technology or their numbers, but their unity. Every human world, every colony, every settlement had contributed to the defense of Earth. They fought as one species with one purpose. The display showed the vast scope of human civilization. Millions of worlds connected by trade routes and communication networks, all working together toward common goals. Helen Baker, their diplomatic coordinator, delivered the final part of the message, Zephyr continued. She announced the formation of the Terran Federation, a union of human worlds dedicated to mutual defense and expansion. Baker appeared in the hologram, her voice carrying the authority of an entire civilization. She informed us that the Federation claimed sovereignty over a sphere of space encompassing 3,000 star systems, Zefik said. Any violation of this territory would be considered an act of war against all humanity. The claim was massive, encompassing territory that several empires had considered their own. But given what the humans had demonstrated, few were willing to challenge their authority. Baker also announced new policies regarding first contact with alien species, SciFi continued. Any race that approached human space peacefully would be welcomed and offered trade agreements. Any race that showed hostile intent would be eliminated completely. The display showed human patrol fleets moving to secure their claimed territory. Each fleet was larger and more powerful than the force that had conquered the Korthani invasion. The message ended with a personal note from Captain Dan Rogers, SciFi said. He was the commander who had delivered the ultimatum that ended our war. His final words were directed specifically at the Korthani Empire. Rogers appeared in the display, his calm eyes looking directly at the camera as if he could see into the future. He thanked us for providing such valuable combat experience, SciFi remembered. He said the war had taught humans important lessons about galactic politics and military strategy. He promised that these lessons would be applied to future conflicts. The psychological impact was devastating. The Korthani had not just been defeated, they had been used as training exercises for human forces. Rogers concluded by stating that humanity held no grudges against individual Korthani warriors. SciFi continued. But he warned that any future aggression would result in the complete destruction of our civilization. The display showed human ships at the edge of Korthani space, monitoring all movement and communication. The message was clear: they were being watched. The response from our government was immediate and absolute, SciFi said. Emergency sessions of the High Council resulted in new laws forbidding any contact with human space. All military operations in that region were permanently suspended. The hologram showed Korthani officials signing documents and issuing orders. The Empire was essentially surrendering entire sectors of space to avoid further conflict with humans. But the humans were not content to simply establish boundaries, SciFi continued. They began what they called diplomatic outreach to other species throughout the galaxy. The display showed human ambassadors meeting with leaders from dozens of different civilizations. Each meeting followed the same pattern: demonstrations of human power followed by offers of friendship and trade. Species after species chose to align themselves with the Terran Federation, SciFi said. Not out of love for humans, but out of fear of what they might do to enemies. The political transformation was remarkable. Within 5 years, the humans had created the largest alliance in galactic history. Not through conquest, but through intimidation and incentive. Dr. Kate Morgan, their biological warfare specialist, established research stations throughout human space, SciFi continued. She announced that humans were developing defensive measures against every known form of alien life. On the 5th day, SciFi arrived to find the hall overflowing. Military leaders from across the Empire had come to hear the final lesson. Even the High Counselor himself sat in the front row, his ancient eyes focused intently on the scarred veteran. SciFi moved slowly to the podium, feeling the weight of every gaze upon him. This would be his last chance to share what he had learned during the darkest period of Korthani history. He looked out at the assembled crowd and began his final tale. 15 years have passed since our return from human space, he said. 15 years of living under the shadow of what we learned about ourselves and about them. Today I will tell you how that shadow shapes our lives and why it must continue to do so. The holographic display activated, showing the current borders of Korthani space. The territory was noticeably smaller than it had been before the war, with large sections marked in red as forbidden zones. The first change came immediately after our defeat, SciFi continued. The High Council established the Department of Human Affairs, tasked with monitoring all activities that might provoke another conflict. The display showed a massive government building on the Korthani homeworld. Thousands of officials worked inside, dedicated solely to preventing any action that might anger the humans. Every military operation, every exploration mission, every trade agreement must be approved by this department, SciFi explained. They study each proposal to ensure it does not violate human interests or threaten human space. A young officer raised his tentacle. Surely we maintain some independence. In our own territory? Zefek's expression darkened. That is what we tell ourselves, but the truth is different. 3 years after the war, we attempted to establish a new colony in what we thought was neutral space. The humans arrived within hours of our landing. The hologram showed human ships surrounding a small Corthony colony ship. The alien vessel looked tiny and helpless compared to the sleek human warships. Captain Emily Foster commanded the human response, Zefek said. She was polite and professional, but her message was clear. We had entered space that humans considered part of their security perimeter. Foster appeared in the display, a young, human female with calm eyes and an untroubled expression. Her youth made her authority even more unsettling. She explained that human space had grown since our last update, Zefak continued. What had been neutral territory was now under Terran Federation protection. She gave us 6 hours to evacuate, or face military action. The Corthony colony ship began its departure immediately. There was no discussion, no negotiation, no protest to higher authorities. That incident established the pattern for all future interactions, Zefak said. Humans expand their territory regularly and we adjust our borders accordingly. We have lost 17 star systems this way without firing a single shot. The display showed the steady shrinkage of Corthony space over the past 15 years. Each year brought new restrictions, new forbidden zones, new areas declared off-limits. But territorial losses are the least of our concerns, Zepha continued. The humans have established what they call observation posts throughout our space. The hologram revealed hidden human installations on asteroids, moons, and even some Corthony worlds. These facilities monitored all communication and movement within the Empire. Dr. Sam Phillips oversees the observation network, Zefek said. He was one of the scientists who developed weapons against us during the war. Now he studies our entire civilization like specimens in a laboratory. Phillips appeared in the display, an older human male with kind eyes that somehow made his surveillance activities even more disturbing. Every message we send, every ship we launch, every decision our government makes is recorded and analyzed, Zefik explained. The humans know more about our empire than we do ourselves. The audience shifted uncomfortably. The idea of such complete surveillance was deeply unsettling to a proud warrior race. Phillips publishes annual reports on Corthony activities, Zefak continued. These reports are distributed to every member of the Terran Federation. Our entire civilization has become a case study in defeated enemies. The display showed excerpts from these reports, detailing everything from Corthony military readiness to cultural trends. Nothing was considered too minor for human attention. The humans also maintain what they call cultural exchange programs. Zefek said, young Corthony are invited to study at human universities, while human observers come to our worlds as researchers and teachers. The hologram showed mixed groups of humans and Corthony working together in various settings. The interactions appeared friendly and cooperative, but the underlying power dynamic was obvious. These programs serve multiple purposes, Zefak explained. They allow humans to monitor our population for signs of rebellion while ensuring that our young people understand human superiority. A senior counselor spoke from the front row. Surely these exchanges also benefit our people? They learn advanced human technology and methods? Zefek nodded slowly. Indeed, they do learn. But what they learn changes them in ways we did not expect. The display showed young Corthony who had returned from human space. They dressed differently, spoke differently, and carried themselves with new confidence. Those who study with humans often return questioning our traditional ways, Zefek said. They see the efficiency of human systems, the prosperity of human worlds, the unity of human society. They begin to wonder why the Corthony Empire cannot achieve similar success. The cultural infiltration was subtle but effective. Each returning student became an advocate for human methods and values. Commander Lisa Green oversees the exchange program, Zefik continued. She selects which young Korthani are invited to participate. Her choices are never random. Green appeared in the hologram, a middle-aged human female with intelligent eyes and a warm smile that somehow seemed calculating. She focuses on the children of important families, future leaders, and influential citizens, Zefik explained. By the time they return home, they see humans not as conquerors, but as mentors and guides. The long-term implications were staggering. An entire generation of Korthani leaders was being shaped by human influence. The most disturbing aspect of our relationship with humans is how normal it has become, Zefik said. We have adapted to living under their oversight. Many of our people no longer remember what independence felt like. The display showed daily life in Korthani cities. People went about their business, worked their jobs, raised their families, all while human observers recorded their activities. General David Parker manages the overall human presence in our space, Zefik continued. He replaced General Miller, after 5 years, bringing a more subtle approach to managing defeated enemies. Parker appeared in the display, a calm human male with the bearing of a professional soldier. He looked competent and unthreatening, which made him even more dangerous. Parker introduced what humans call soft occupation, Zefak explained. Instead of ruling directly, they influence our decisions through economic incentives and security guarantees. The system was remarkably effective. The Korthani government made choices that aligned with human interests, not because they were forced to, but because alternatives seemed impractical or dangerous. Trade with the Terran Federation now accounts for 60% of our economy, Zefek said. We are completely dependent on human goodwill for our prosperity. The display showed cargo ships carrying Korthani goods to human markets, while human technology flowed back to alien worlds. The trade was profitable but created dangerous dependence. Dr. Jennifer Adams directs the Economic Integration Program. Zefak continued. She ensures that our economies become so intertwined that separation would be catastrophic for both sides. Adams appeared in the hologram, a brilliant human economist whose policies had reshaped galactic trade. Her work created stability through mutual dependence. But perhaps the most effective control mechanism is fear, Zefek said. Not fear of immediate punishment, but fear of what humans might become if threatened again. The display showed recent intelligence reports on human military development. New weapons, new ships, new strategies that made their previous capabilities seem primitive. Admiral Kevin Stone commands the human rapid response fleets, Zefek continued. His forces can reach any point in known space within days. The mere threat of their deployment ends most conflicts before they begin. Stone appeared in the display, a younger human who had grown up during the war. His generation saw military service as a duty to protect human expansion and dominance. Every species in the galaxy knows that challenging human authority means facing complete destruction, Zefak explained. We have all seen what happened to the Korthani Empire when we tried to conquer Earth. The psychological warfare was complete. The humans had turned their victory into a permanent deterrent against future aggression. But the humans have not stopped expanding their influence, Zefik said. Captain Rachel Davis leads their exploration fleets, seeking new worlds and new species to bring into their federation. Davis appeared in the hologram, a confident human explorer who had discovered dozens of new civilizations. Each contact followed the same pattern, demonstration of power followed by offers of alliance. The Terran Federation grows larger every year,